A cold wind drifts across broken stone. Ash hangs in the air like gray snow, and beneath a sky darkened by smoke, a small figure struggles upward along the slopes of Orodruin. His feet are bleeding. His cloak is torn. The weight on his shoulders is far heavier than any burden a gardener was ever meant to carry. Yet step by step, he climbs. Before long, we will return to this mountain and understand how a hobbit from the quiet lanes of Hobbiton came to stand at the edge of the fire itself. For now, settle into the story of Samwise Gamgee, known to the world as Samwise the Brave, and let the road unfold at its own gentle pace. If you have walked these paths before, you might quietly note which night of the journey this is for you. If you are new here, simply call it Night 1. This is a tale told softly, meant to accompany the slow hours when Middle-earth feels closest, when distant stars seem brighter, and when the rustle of leaves outside the window could almost be mistaken for the whispering fields of the Shire. Long before kings returned to their thrones, and before the Dark Tower fell, there lived a gardener whose name few beyond his homeland would have recognized. Yet Tolkien himself would later describe him as the chief hero of the story. Why did this humble hobbit become one of the most important figures in the history of Middle-earth? The question seems almost strange when we first encounter him. Samwise Gamgee was not descended from ancient kings. He possessed no magical power. He carried no legendary sword forged in forgotten ages. He was born in the year 2980 of the Third Age, in the green and peaceful land known as the Shire, a place far removed from the great struggles that shaped the wider world. While elves remembered the elder days, and Gondor still guarded the borders of the West against the shadow of Mordor, Sam's world was measured by gardens, meals, family gatherings, and the changing seasons. His father was Hamfast Gamgee, better known throughout Hobbiton as the Gaffer. Hamfast worked as a gardener and was famous for speaking his mind with great confidence. In the pages of The Lord of the Rings, the Gaffer often appears discussing local matters outside the ivy bush or sharing opinions that nobody had asked for. Yet beneath the gruff exterior stood a hard-working hobbit, devoted to his family and his duties. The Gamgees served the Baggins family at Bag End, the most famous hobbit hole in Hobbiton. Through this connection, young Sam grew up within sight of one of the most unusual figures in the entire Shire. That figure was Bilbo Baggins. By the time Sam was born, Bilbo had already returned from his remarkable journey with Thorin Oakenshield and the company of dwarves. The events described in The Hobbit had become local legend. Many hobbits considered Bilbo eccentric. Some thought him odd. Others whispered that he had acquired strange habits during his travels. Yet for a curious child growing up nearby, Bilbo represented something entirely different. He was living proof that the world extended beyond the borders of the Shire. Mountains existed, dragons existed, elves existed. The tales that older hobbits dismissed as nonsense fascinated Sam deeply. Why did the stories of elves capture Sam's imagination more than anything else? Tolkien gives us clues throughout the narrative. Even before leaving the Shire, Sam displays a wonder that distinguishes him from many of his neighbors. Most hobbits preferred comfort over adventure. They enjoyed predictable routines and familiar roads. Sam loved those things too, but somewhere within him burned a quiet longing to see the people spoken of in songs and legends. He listened carefully whenever Bilbo shared stories of Rivendell, of wandering elves, and of lands beyond the western horizon. Those stories settled into his heart and remained there for years. The Shire itself seemed designed to nurture such dreams. Rolling green hills stretched beneath broad skies. Streams wound through fields bordered by hedges and wildflowers. In spring, The scent of fresh earth filled the air. During summer evenings, lantern light glowed through round windows while voices drifted from distant inns. Hobbiton was not merely a village. It was part of a larger realm, established in the year 1601 of the Third Age, when hobbits crossing the Brandywine received permission from King Argaleb II of Arnor to settle the region. By Sam's lifetime, the old northern kingdom had long since fallen, and most hobbits scarcely remembered that kings had ever existed. Yet the history of Middle-earth still lingered beneath the surface, hidden like roots beneath a garden. Sam's education differed from that of many hobbits. According to the traditions of the Shire, formal learning was not always considered necessary. Yet Bilbo took an interest in the bright young son of the Gaffer. The published text indicates that Bilbo taught Sam his letters. This small detail becomes more important the longer one reflects upon it. Reading opened doors that otherwise would have remained closed. Through maps, songs, poems, and stories, Sam gained access to fragments of a wider world. He learned names like Gil-galad, Elbereth, and Beren long before he ever encountered the realities behind those names. One mystery surrounding Sam concerns wisdom. How does a gardener acquire insight that sometimes rivals that of far more learned individuals? The answer begins here. Sam's wisdom is never presented as academic knowledge. Rather, it grows from careful listening. He listens to Bilbo. He listens to Gandalf. He listens to Frodo. He listens even when others assume he is not paying attention. Throughout Tolkien's works, listening often precedes understanding. The proud frequently speak. The wise frequently observe. Sam spends years absorbing stories, lessons, and experiences before destiny ever calls him beyond the borders of the Shire Dot. By the closing years of the Third Age, another figure had become central to Sam's life. Frodo Baggins, Bilbo's heir and cousin, inherited Bag End after Bilbo's famous farewell party in the year 3001. Frodo was younger than Bilbo, yet shared many of his unusual interests. He enjoyed elvish lore, wandering, and thoughtful conversation. Sam entered his service as gardener, but the relationship quickly grew beyond simple employment. Over time, loyalty transformed into friendship. The difference in social standing remained visible by Shire customs, yet Tolkien repeatedly shows a bond that transcends such distinctions. Sam admired Frodo deeply, while Frodo trusted Sam in ways he trusted very few others. As years passed, the world beyond the Shire grew darker. Far to the east, Sauron had openly declared himself in Mordor. The Nazgul rode again. The White Council had driven the Necromancer from Dol Guldur decades earlier, only to discover that the Necromancer and Sauron were one and the same. In Gondor, watchfulness increased along the borders. In Rivendell, old fears stirred. Yet Hobbiton remained peaceful. Gardens still needed tending. Potatoes still needed planting. The Green Dragon still welcomed evening conversation. Sam's life moved according to familiar rhythms, and there was little reason to suspect that he would soon become entwined with the greatest struggle of the age. Still, there are moments when destiny seems to gather quietly before revealing itself. A gardener learns to recognize such moments. Before a seed breaks through the soil, nothing appears to change. The field looks exactly as it did the day before. Yet beneath the surface, unseen growth has already begun. So, it was with Samwise Gamgee. The stories of Bilbo, the lessons of the Gaffer, the friendship of Frodo, and the distant songs of elves were all preparing him for a road he could not yet imagine. And somewhere beyond the green hills of the Shire, Gandalf the Grey was drawing closer, carrying knowledge that would change all their lives forever. Why was Sam's presence beside Frodo treated as a punishment when it would become one of the most important appointments in the history of Middle-earth? The answer begins on a quiet day outside Bag End, when curiosity drew a gardener beneath an open window. Gandalf had returned to Hobbiton after years of investigation. During that long absence, he had pursued the truth concerning Bilbo's strange ring. In Minas Tirith, within the archives guarded by the stewards of Gondor, he had found the ancient scroll of Isildur describing the One Ring and the fiery letters that appeared upon its surface. By April of the year 3018 of the Third Age, the truth could no longer be ignored. The harmless trinket Bilbo had carried from the Misty Mountains was the ruling ring of Sauron himself. Inside Bag End, Gandalf revealed the full horror of this discovery to Frodo. The Dark Lord had returned openly to Mordor. Gollum had been captured and tortured. Under questioning, he had spoken 2 words that mattered more than armies or fortresses. He had spoken Shire and Baggins. Far away in Barad-dûr, Sauron now knew where the ring had been hidden for decades. Outside the window, concealed among flowers and garden paths, Sam listened with growing alarm as fragments of the conversation drifted into the summer air. The scene is one of the most charming and significant moments in the Fellowship of the Ring. Gandalf suddenly interrupts the conversation and demands that the eavesdropper reveal himself. A terrified Sam is dragged inside. The wizard accuses him of listening at doors, while Sam nervously admits that he heard enough to understand that dangerous matters were unfolding. Yet one detail immediately catches Gandalf's attention. When asked what part interested him most, Sam blurts out that he was listening to the talk about elves. That answer changes everything. Gandalf sees what others often overlook. He recognizes that Sam is not driven by greed, ambition, or a desire for importance. The gardener is motivated by wonder. The prospect of seeing elves fills him with excitement, even while fear grips his heart. As punishment for eavesdropping, Gandalf declares that Sam must accompany Frodo wherever he goes. The wizard delivers the sentence with stern gravity, but beneath it lies a deeper purpose. Gandalf rarely acts without thought, and many readers have long suspected that he already understood how necessary Sam would become. Why did Gandalf trust Sam so completely? Tolkien never provides a direct answer, yet the evidence runs throughout the story. Gandalf had known hobbits for generations. He had watched Bilbo mature from a comfort-loving bachelor into a traveler who faced trolls, goblins, spiders, and a dragon. He understood that courage among hobbits often appeared in unexpected forms. Sam possessed no reputation for greatness, but he displayed loyalty, humility, and steadfastness. These qualities mattered more than skill with weapons. In the struggle against Sauron, strength alone would never be enough. As summer turned toward autumn in 3018, preparations quietly began. Frodo sold Bag End to the Sackville-Baggins family and spread the story that he intended to move to Crick Hollow in Buckland. This deception was designed to conceal his true purpose. The Nazgûl had already crossed the Anduin. The Black Riders were searching. Their journey carried them westward through the lands of men, toward the peaceful country that knew almost nothing of them. While the Shire continued its ordinary routines, shadows moved ever closer. On September 23, 3018, Frodo finally departed Bag End. Sam walked beside him. Their route first carried them through the fields and lanes, familiar from childhood. Yet every step increased the distance between the old life and the new. Tolkien pays careful attention to these early miles because they reveal the nature of both hobbits. Frodo bears the burden of knowledge. Sam bears the burden of uncertainty. He knows danger lies ahead, but he cannot yet see its full shape. One of the most memorable moments occurs when the travelers pause and Sam looks back. He realizes that he has reached the farthest point from home he has ever traveled. Beyond that spot lies territory completely unknown to him. The moment lasts only briefly, yet it captures something universal. Great journeys rarely begin with battles or dramatic speeches. They begin when a familiar road disappears behind you. Sam recognizes the threshold and chooses to cross it anyway. The first days bring beauty as well as fear. The countryside glows beneath early autumn sunlight. Fields ripple beneath gentle winds. Trees rustle overhead, while distant birds call across the hills. Tolkien often balances looming darkness with descriptions of the natural world, and Sam responds to those details more than anyone. His attention remains fixed on growing things, on soil, leaves, roots, and flowers. Even during the greatest quest of the age, he never loses the perspective of a gardener. The company soon grows larger. Frodo and Sam are joined by Peregrine Took and Meriadoc Brandybuck, though the two cousins quickly reveal that they know far more about Frodo's plans than he expected. Merry and Pippin have quietly uncovered the secret and refuse to let their friend leave alone. Together, they form a small fellowship long before the official Fellowship of the Ring exists. Their laughter and companionship lighten the road, yet signs of danger continue to multiply around them. Why do the Black Riders inspire such terror when they are rarely seen clearly during these early chapters? Tolkien builds their presence carefully. A distant hoofbeat, a cloaked figure standing motionless beside the road, a strange sniffing sound in the darkness. The Nazgul are not merely hunters. They are ancient servants of Sauron, once mortal kings enslaved by rings of power. Their power lies partly in fear itself. Long before the hobbits understand what pursues them, they begin to feel its shadow. Several encounters with the riders occur during these opening stages of the journey. Frodo feels an almost irresistible urge to put on the ring when one of them approaches. Sam notices the change immediately. Again and again, he watches over his master with simple concern. He does not possess Gandalf's wisdom or Aragorn's experience, yet he possesses something equally valuable. He notices when Frodo is troubled. He notices when danger draws near. His attention never drifts far from the friend he has sworn to accompany. At last, the travelers leave the familiar roads entirely and move toward the edge of the old forest. Behind them lies the ordered world of hedges, farms, and villages. Ahead waits a place older than the Shire itself, a remnant of ancient forests that once covered much of Eriador before the kingdoms of men rose and fell. Evening settles across the land as shadows lengthen beneath twisted branches. The road grows quieter, the air feels older, and with each step toward the trees, Samwise Gamgee moves farther from the gardener he once was, and closer to the hero history will remember. Why does Sam remember wonders more clearly than dangers, even when the road places both before him at the same time? The question becomes important as the travelers approach the old forest. Most who entered that ancient wood spoke first of fear. Merry knew its reputation well. The Brandybucks had spent generations guarding the eastern borders of Buckland against its encroaching trees. Stories told of paths that shifted unexpectedly, of roots that seemed almost alive, and of a hostility that could not easily be explained. Yet while Sam certainly felt fear, another emotion remained alive beside it. Curiosity walked with him wherever the road led. The old forest was far older than the Shire. It stood as a surviving fragment of the immense woodlands that had once covered much of Eriador before kingdoms rose and vanished. Tolkien never fully explains the strange awareness present among its trees, though he strongly implies that the forest retained a memory of ancient injuries inflicted by axes and fire. The hobbits quickly discovered that ordinary woodland rules no longer applied there. Paths twisted, landmarks shifted. The deeper they traveled, the more the forest seemed determined to guide them toward a destination of its own choosing. Their journey eventually brought them to the Withywindle Valley, one of the most enchanting and unsettling places in all of The Lord of the Rings. Golden sunlight filtered through branches overhead, while the river wound gently through the landscape. Yet beneath the beauty lurked danger. There stood Old Man Willow, a being whose nature Tolkien deliberately leaves mysterious. Whether tree spirit, awakened tree, or something older, Old Man Willow possessed intelligence and malice. Frodo, Merry, and Pippin soon found themselves trapped by his power, while Sam remained among the few still able to act. What does Sam do when confronted by a force entirely beyond his understanding? He does exactly what he always does throughout the story. He tries to help. There is no great strategy, no hidden wisdom, no magical solution. Sam simply refuses to abandon his friends. When panic threatens to overwhelm the group, he continues searching for a way forward. This pattern will repeat again and again across Middle-earth. Others possess greater strength. Sam possesses greater persistence. Rescue arrives in one of the most unusual forms Tolkien ever created. Across the valley comes a singing figure wearing blue and yellow, moving with effortless confidence through a landscape that terrifies everyone else. This is Tom Bombadil. Few characters in Tolkien's legendarium inspire more debate. The published text offers no definitive explanation of his origin. Elrond later calls him the eldest. Goldberry describes him simply as the master. Even Gandalf provides no final answer. The mystery remains one of the most enduring in Tolkien's world. Tom's intervention saves the hobbits from Old Man Willow. More remarkably, the ring appears to hold no power over him whatsoever. When Frodo hands him the One Ring, Tom can see the hobbit while the ring is worn. He even tosses the ring into the air and makes it disappear before returning it. At the Council of Elrond, Gandalf explains that entrusting the ring to Tom would fail because Bombadil would not understand its importance and would eventually misplace it. The scene creates one of the great mysteries of the narrative. How can an object capable of corrupting kings, wizards, and warriors have no apparent effect on this strange master of the forest? The hobbits spent several peaceful days in the house of Tom Bombadil and Goldberry. Here Sam encounters something he has dreamed about for years. Songs fill the evenings. Ancient stories linger in the air. The natural world seems brighter and deeper than anything he has previously known. Goldberry, described as the River Daughter, appears almost elvish in grace, though she is something entirely different. Tolkien never places her neatly within any established race of Middle-earth. For Sam, however, categories matter less than experience. He has stepped into a realm where old tales suddenly feel real. Why does Tolkien place this curious interlude so early in the story? One answer lies in contrast. Before the long darkness ahead, the hobbits briefly glimpse a corner of Middle-earth, untouched by Sauron's reach. Tom Bombadil exists outside the struggle for domination. He neither seeks power nor fears it. Sam carries this memory forward, even when later roads grow bleak throughout the quest. Moments of beauty often sustain him as much as food or rest. The journey continues eastward, and before long, the travelers enter another dangerous region. The Barrow Downs stretch across rolling hills beneath wide skies, concealing ancient tombs beneath their grassy surfaces. These mounds date back to the Kingdom of Arnor and to the people who lived there long before the Shire existed. In Tolkien's deeper history, many barrows became corrupted during the wars against Angmar, the realm ruled by the Witch King. Evil spirits known as Barrow Wights came to inhabit some of these ancient graves. The hobbits soon fall victim to one of them. Frodo awakens inside a burial chamber surrounded by his unconscious companions. Gold and treasure lie scattered around them, remnants of forgotten centuries. The atmosphere is cold, silent, and deeply ancient. In one of the most haunting episodes in the novel, Frodo briefly confronts the possibility of losing all hope. Yet once again, rescue comes through Tom Bombadil, whose songs break the power of the Barrow-wight. Emerging into daylight, the hobbits receive weapons from the treasure hidden within the mound. Among them are blades forged long ago in Arnor during its wars against Angmar. These swords possess greater significance than anyone realizes at the time. Merry's blade, in particular, will later play a crucial role in the downfall of the Witch King of Angmar during the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. Tolkien carefully plants such details years before their fulfillment. Sam receives a sword as well, though he remains more comfortable carrying a cooking pot than a weapon. The contrast is fitting. He's not becoming a warrior in the conventional sense. His courage develops along a different path. Why does Sam seem almost unchanged by these frightening experiences? The answer lies partly in his priorities. He notices danger, certainly, but he rarely becomes consumed by it. His attention remains fixed on people. After every escape, his concern returns to Frodo. Is Frodo safe? Is Frodo resting? Has Frodo eaten? This focus protects him from despair. While larger questions about the fate of Middle-earth loom overhead, Sam continually grounds himself in immediate acts of care. Eventually, the road carries the travelers out of the wild and toward Bree. For the first time in his life, Sam approaches a settlement inhabited not only by hobbits, but also by men. The town sits at the crossroads of ancient roads, sheltered beneath Bree Hill. Traders pass through its gates. Rangers move quietly along its borders. News arrives from distant regions. Compared to Hobbiton, Bree feels enormous. To Sam's eyes, it is almost a glimpse of the wider world itself. As evening falls, lights begin appearing in windows across the town. Smoke rises from chimneys into the cooling air. Travelers gather behind sturdy walls, while darkness spreads beyond the gates. Somewhere nearby, a ranger watches unseen. Somewhere farther away, black riders continue their hunt. And within the warm glow of the prancing pony, Samwise Gamgee is about to meet one of the most important figures he will ever know. Why did an unassuming gardener place his trust in a weathered ranger whom nearly everyone else regarded with suspicion? The answer begins in the common room of the prancing pony, where firelight flickered across wooden beams and travelers exchanged news beneath the watchful eye of Barlaman Butterbur. Bree was unlike any place Sam had ever known. Hobbits and men lived side by side. Strange accents drifted through the room. Merchants arrived from distant lands. To a Shire hobbit, the town felt enormous. Yet even amid all these unfamiliar sights, one figure drew attention more than any other. In a shadowed corner sat a tall man known as Strider. His clothing was travel-stained. His face appeared weathered by long years spent outdoors. Many Bree folk viewed him with unease. Butterbur himself treated rangers as mysterious wanderers whose business was difficult to understand. Sam shared some of those doubts at first, yet this man was no ordinary traveler. Strider was Aragorn, son of Arathorn, the last chieftain of the Dunedain of the North and heir to the ancient kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor. Few in Bree knew his true identity, and fewer still understood the weight of history resting upon his shoulders. The evening quickly turns dangerous. Frodo, attempting to entertain the crowd with a song, accidentally places the one ring upon his finger. Instantly, he vanishes from sight. Panic spreads through the room. To the ordinary patrons, the event appears alarming enough. To Strider, it confirms something far more serious. He already suspects the true nature of Frodo's mission. Afterward, he arranges a private meeting and warns the hobbits that black riders are searching for them. The warning proves accurate almost immediately. Why does Sam distrust Aragorn longer than Frodo does? Partly because loyalty makes him cautious. Sam views strangers through the lens of how they might affect Frodo's safety. He is not impressed by grand titles because he does not know them. He is not persuaded by mysterious reputations because he has never heard them. Instead, he studies actions. Throughout the journey, Sam often judges character more accurately than many wiser people because he pays attention to behavior rather than appearances. That night, the hobbits avoid sleeping in their assigned rooms. Aragorn's advice convinces them to move elsewhere within the inn. The decision saves their lives. During the darkness, black riders break into the bedrooms where the hobbits were expected to be sleeping and slash the beds apart. The attack reveals how close the servants of Sauron have come. Had the travelers remained where planned, the quest might have ended before it truly began. Sam sees the ruined rooms afterward and begins to understand the scale of the danger surrounding Frodo. The following morning, September 30th of the year 3018, the company leaves Bree under Aragorn's guidance. Their destination is Rivendell, the hidden valley of Elrond half-elven. The route, however, is neither simple nor safe. Aragorn deliberately avoids the main roads. The Nazgul watch the obvious paths. Instead, the travelers move through wilderness, crossing lonely lands that once formed part of the Kingdom of Arnor. Ruined watchtowers, broken walls, and forgotten roads occasionally emerge from the landscape, silent reminders of a civilization long vanished. Why does Tolkien devote so much attention to these ruins? The answer lies in Middle-earth's sense of deep history. Everywhere the travelers go, they encounter traces of older ages. Aragorn does not merely guide them across geography, he guides them across centuries. Hills and valleys hold memories of kingdoms, wars, and peoples now largely forgotten. For Sam, whose world until recently consisted mainly of Hobbiton and its surrounding fields, these discoveries are astonishing. The world grows larger with every mile. As the days pass, Sam begins observing Aragorn more carefully. He notices the ranger's knowledge of plants and terrain. He notices how Aragorn can track enemies across difficult ground. He notices that birds and animals seem to reveal information to him. These skills are not magical. They are the result of decades spent protecting Eriador from threats most inhabitants never even knew existed. Long before the War of the Ring became public, Aragorn and the Dunedain had quietly guarded lands like the Shire from dangers lurking beyond their borders. Eventually, the company reaches Weathertop, known in Sindarin as Amon Sul. In ancient days, this hill served as a major fortress and watchtower of Arnor. The Seeing Stones, known as Palantiri, once communicated through its heights. During the wars against Angmar, however, Amon Sul was destroyed. By Frodo's time, only broken ruins remained. Yet the hill still offered a commanding view of the surrounding countryside, making it a logical resting place. Unfortunately, it also attracted unwelcome attention. Why did the Nazgul wait until Weathertop to strike openly? One reason involves confidence. The Ringwraiths had spent weeks hunting their prey. Here, upon an exposed hilltop, escape seemed unlikely. On the night of October 6th, the attack finally came. 5 of the 9 approached through the darkness, while the travelers sheltered among the ruins. Tolkien's description remains one of the most chilling passages in the novel. Black-cloaked figures advanced through firelight, crowned by an atmosphere of dread that seemed to press upon the air itself. During the confrontation, Frodo displays considerable courage. Yet the most significant moment comes when the Witch King of Angmar wounds him with a Morgul blade. The injury is not merely physical. a fragment of the enchanted weapon begins working inward toward Frodo's heart. If it reaches its destination, he will eventually fade into the Wraith world and fall under Sauron's domination. Aragorn drives the attackers back temporarily, but the danger remains. The wound continues to worsen with every passing day. For Sam, this period becomes one of growing anxiety. Frodo weakens steadily. His face pales. His strength declines. The burden of the ring presses more heavily upon him. Sam can do little to heal the wound, yet he never leaves Frodo's side. The loyalty first visible in the gardens of Bag End now reveals itself under far harsher circumstances. Sam's concern is practical and immediate: food, water, blankets, rest. He focuses on what can still be done, rather than dwelling on what cannot. The road east becomes increasingly desperate. The company must reach Rivendell before the Morgul wound claims Frodo completely dot. Aragorn leads them through difficult country, while the Nazgul continue their pursuit. Then, when hope appears to be fading, help arrives from an unexpected source. Glorfindel, one of the mightiest elves remaining in Middle-earth, rides out from Rivendell in search of them. In the published text of The Lord of the Rings, it is Glorfindel, not Arwen as depicted in Peter Jackson's adaptation, who finds the travelers and aids their escape. Glorfindel's presence carries enormous significance. In Tolkien's deeper lore, revealed through the Silmarillion and later writings, Glorfindel had once lived in the First Age, fought a Balrog during the fall of Gondolin, died in battle, and returned from the Blessed Realm. Even the Nazgul fear him. When he approaches, the company gains its first real chance of reaching safety. Yet the greatest trial still lies ahead at the ford of Bruinen. The final race toward Rivendell unfolds beneath gathering tension. Frodo rides Glorfindel's horse, Asfaloth, while the others struggle to keep pace. Behind them come all 9 Nazgul. Before them lies the hidden valley of Elrond. The river rushes through the autumn landscape, carrying cold mountain water from the misty mountains. Sam runs as far as he can, refusing to abandon Frodo despite exhaustion and fear. And as the sound of hoofbeats grows louder behind them, the fate of the ring-bearer hangs upon the crossing of a single ford. Why did Elrond, Gandalf, Aragorn, and the greatest leaders of the Free Peoples agree that Samwise Gamgee must remain beside Frodo when the fate of the world was being discussed? The answer begins in Rivendell, where the long flight from the Nazgul finally comes to an end. At the ford of Bruinen, Frodo crosses the river just ahead of his pursuers. The 9 riders follow, only to be overwhelmed by a great flood sent by Elrond, with Gandalf's power aiding it. In the published text, the waters take the form of charging white horses. The Nazgul are swept away, and Frodo collapses soon afterward. For Sam, exhausted by fear and exertion, the hidden valley represents safety, unlike anything he has felt since leaving the Shire. Rivendell, known also as Imladris, had existed for more than 4,000 years by this point in Middle-earth's history. Elrond founded it during the Second Age, after the destruction wrought by Sauron in Eriador. Hidden among deep valleys and pine-covered slopes, it endured through the rise and fall of kingdoms. Here lived elves, who remembered events stretching back to the Elder Days. Songs preserved memories of Beleriand, a land drowned beneath the sea at the end of the First Age. For Sam, walking through Rivendell must have felt like stepping into one of Bilbo's stories. When Frodo awakens after many days of healing, he discovers that Bilbo is still alive and living in Rivendell. The reunion is joyful, and for Sam, it confirms something important. Adventure had not transformed Bilbo into a legend beyond reach. He remains the same kindly figure who once taught him letters and told stories beside the fire. Yet Bilbo has changed as well. Age touches him strangely. The ring's long influence lingers. Tolkien quietly reminds us that even victories carry costs. Why does Sam thrive in Rivendell more than one might expect? Many assume that a simple gardener would feel out of place among elven lords and ancient wisdom. The opposite proves true. Sam delights in everything. He listens to songs. He wanders through gardens. He absorbs names and stories with the same enthusiasm he once showed while listening outside Bag End. His love for elves was never theoretical. Now he finally walks among them, and the reality exceeds every dream. The most important event during the stay is the Council of Elrond. Representatives from many peoples gather there. Elrond presides. Gandalf recounts his investigations concerning the ring. Aragorn speaks as Isildur's heir. Boromir arrives from Gondor, bearing troubling dreams. Glóin the dwarf brings news from Erebor. Legolas reports the escape of Gollum from the Woodland Realm. Together, their testimonies reveal the full extent of Sauron's growing power. The discussion reaches across centuries of history, connecting ancient mistakes to present dangers. The council ultimately reaches a stark conclusion. The One Ring cannot be used safely. It cannot be hidden forever. It cannot remain in Rivendell. The only path forward is destruction. The ring must be taken into Mordor and cast into the fires of Orodruin, where it was forged by Sauron during the Second Age. The proposal sounds nearly impossible. Mordor is heavily defended. The journey is immense. Success seems unlikely. Yet no better option exists. Frodo volunteers to bear the ring. His decision remains one of the defining moments of the Legendarium. No command forces him forward. No prophecy compels him. He simply accepts the burden because somebody must. Immediately afterward, Elrond begins choosing companions for the quest. Aragorn joins. Gandalf joins. Boromir of Gondor joins. Legolas represents the elves. Glóin's son Gimli represents the dwarves. Merry and Pippin are selected from among the hobbits. Yet one choice occurs almost accidentally. Sam has been listening nearby. When Elrond discusses sending Frodo away, Sam bursts forward in alarm. The thought of being left behind is unbearable to him. The scene contains humor, but beneath it lies genuine devotion. Elrond quickly recognizes the truth. There is no separating Sam from Frodo. Thus, the Fellowship of the Ring is completed. 9 walkers set against the 9 riders. Among them stand kings, warriors, and ancient beings. And among them stands a gardener from Hobbiton. Why does Tolkien repeatedly elevate loyalty above greatness? The Fellowship offers a clear answer. Boromir possesses martial strength. Aragorn possesses royal heritage. Gandalf possesses immense wisdom as one of the Maiar sent to Middle-earth as an Istari. Yet none of those qualities can replace loyalty. From the beginning, Sam's role is unique. He serves not as strategist or champion, but as the person who refuses to abandon the ring-bearer. The importance of that role will become clearer with every mile. The Fellowship departs Rivendell on December 25th, 3018. Winter grips the northern lands. Snow crowns distant peaks. Their route initially follows the foothills of the Misty Mountains southward. Sam travels alongside figures he once would have considered legendary. Beside him walks Aragorn, heir of Elendil. Nearby walks Legolas, a prince of the Woodland Realm. Gandalf carries memories stretching back beyond the founding of the Sun and Moon. Yet Sam remains remarkably unchanged. He continues worrying about meals, campsites, and Frodo's comfort. The first major obstacle appears at Caradhras, one of the great peaks of the Misty Mountains. The Fellowship attempts to cross through the Redhorn Pass. Conditions quickly deteriorate. Snow deepens. Wind howls through the heights. Progress slows to a crawl. Tolkien leaves room for debate regarding whether the mountain itself resists them. Some characters believe Caradhras possesses a hostile will. Others view the storm as natural. Whatever the cause, the attempt fails. Sam's conduct during the crossing reveals much about his character. He struggles through deep snow without complaint. He helps where he can. He worries more about others than himself. When the Fellowship finally abandons the pass, there is relief rather than shame. Survival matters more than pride. Yet turning back creates a new problem. Another route must be found, and every available option carries danger. Why does Gandalf choose Moria despite his visible reluctance? The answer lies in necessity. The Gap of Rohan would take the Fellowship dangerously close to Saruman's influence. Time is limited. The enemy is searching. Therefore, Gandalf proposes the underground road through Khazad-dûm, once the greatest kingdom of the dwarves. In earlier ages, Moria glittered with wealth drawn from mithril, the rare silver metal prized throughout Middle-earth. But centuries before the War of the Ring, the dwarves delved too deeply and awakened Durin's Bane. Even before entering, the place weighs heavily on the travelers. Dark cliffs rise above the western gate. The still waters before the doors of Durin conceal hidden dangers. Moonlight reveals ancient elvish inscriptions celebrating friendship between the dwarves of Khazad-dûm and the elves of Eregion during the Second Age. Sam listens as Gandalf solves the riddle that opens the doors. Behind them waits darkness, stretching for miles beneath the mountains. As the Fellowship steps into Moria, daylight vanishes. Echoes replace birdsong. Vast halls disappear into shadow beyond the reach of torchlight. Somewhere ahead lie answers to the fate of Balin's colony, which entered Moria in the year 2989. Somewhere deeper still waits an ancient terror older than kingdoms, older than the last alliance, and older even than the sun. Sam cannot know it yet, but the road through Khazad-dûm will change every member of the Fellowship forever. Why did Galadriel, one of the wisest beings remaining in Middle-earth, place a simple box of soil into Sam's hands instead of a weapon, jewel, or artifact of power? The answer begins in darkness beneath the misty mountains, where the Fellowship enters Moria and discovers that courage alone cannot shield them from loss. Khazad-dûm had once been the greatest dwarven city in Middle-earth. Founded by Durin the Deathless in the Elder Days, it expanded over thousands of years into a realm of immense halls, bridges, mines, and chambers carved deep beneath the mountains. The dwarves grew wealthy through the mining of mithril, a metal so rare and beautiful that it became prized throughout the world. Yet prosperity led to disaster. In the year 1980 of the Third Age, miners delving too greedily and too deep awakened a Balrog, one of the ancient Maiar corrupted by Morgoth during the First Age. Durin the Sixth was slain. His son Nain the First soon followed. The dwarves abandoned Moria, and Durin's Bane claimed the halls. The Fellowship learns more of this tragedy when they discover the chamber of Mazarbul. There lies the tomb of Balin, who had led an attempt to recolonize Moria, beginning in the year 2989. For a brief time, his colony prospered. Then orcs overwhelmed them. Gandalf reads from the damaged Book of Mazarbul, its final pages recording fear, battle, and approaching doom. The entries grow fragmented. Drums sound in the depths. The last lines describe enemies breaking through. Even centuries after the awakening of Durin's Bane, Moria remains a place where hope struggles to survive. Why does Sam respond so strongly to the suffering of others, even strangers? In the Chamber of Mazarbul, his reaction differs from that of many companions. He understands little of dwarven history. He has never met Balin. Yet the sadness affects him deeply. Throughout Tolkien's work, Sam consistently recognizes grief in others. He does not require personal connection to feel compassion. The ruined colony becomes real to him because it was once a home, and homes matter greatly to hobbits. The Fellowship's position quickly becomes untenable. Orcs attack from multiple directions. A cave troll bursts into the chamber. During the battle, Frodo receives a powerful spear, thrust directly into his chest. The attack should have killed him. Instead, Bilbo's mithril coat, acquired during the quest of Erebor and gifted to Frodo in Rivendell, absorbs the blow. Once again, Sam witnesses how narrowly disaster has been avoided. The road to Mordor seems increasingly shaped by moments where survival hangs upon the smallest details. Then comes the moment that alters everything. As the Fellowship flees across the bridge of Khazad-dûm, the true terror of Moria finally emerges. Durin's bane appears in flame and shadow. Tolkien identifies it clearly as a Balrog, one of Morgoth's ancient servants from the First Age. Fire surrounds it. Darkness seems to cling to it. The creature embodies memories of wars fought thousands of years before the Shire even existed. Against such a foe, the Fellowship can only retreat. Why does Gandalf choose to stand alone? The answer reveals one of the deepest themes in Tolkien's legendarium. Gandalf understands that somebody must hold the bridge. As an Istar sent by the Valar to oppose Sauron, he accepts responsibilities others cannot. His famous declaration, "You cannot pass," is not mere defiance, it is sacrifice. The bridge breaks beneath the Bolrog, yet as the creature falls, its whip catches Gandalf. He disappears into the abyss. The Fellowship escapes, but the cost is devastating. For Sam, the loss feels deeply personal. Gandalf had been present from the beginning. He connected the quiet life of the Shire to the vast struggles of Middle-earth. Without him, the road suddenly feels colder and more uncertain. Aragorn assumes leadership, but even Aragorn appears shaken. The company emerges from Moria into daylight beneath the trees of Lothlorien, carrying grief alongside relief. They have survived, but survival has demanded payment. Lothlorien stands in deliberate contrast to Moria. Instead of darkness, there is golden light. Instead of ruined halls, there are living trees. The realm is ruled by Celeborn and Galadriel, among the oldest and most powerful elves remaining east of the sea. Galadriel herself had lived in Valinor before the rising of the moon and sun. She had crossed into Middle-earth during the tumultuous years of the First Age. Few individuals in the Third Age possessed such immense memory. To Sam, entering Lorien feels like entering another world. The Fellowship spends many weeks in Lorien during January and February of 3019. Time seems to flow differently there. Tolkien intentionally leaves the sensation difficult to define. The travelers rest, heal, and recover from the ordeal of Moria. Sam especially delights in the beauty surrounding him. The Malern trees tower overhead, their golden leaves shimmering even in winter. Streams run clear beneath wooden bridges. Songs drift through the evening air. For someone who loves growing things, Lorien appears almost perfect. Why does Galadriel take such interest in Sam? During their meeting at the Mirror of Galadriel, she perceives more than simple humility. Sam gazes into the waters and sees troubling visions connected to the Shire. Trees are cut down. Industrial destruction spreads across familiar places. The images disturb him profoundly. Yet when Galadriel offers insight, Sam's deepest concern remains the fate of home. Unlike many characters tempted by power, wealth, or glory, he worries about gardens, fields, and ordinary lives. Galadriel understands the significance of that instinct. The mirror sequence also reveals another crucial truth. Galadriel herself rejects the temptation of the ring. Frodo offers it to her. For a brief moment, she imagines becoming a mighty queen, beautiful, and terrible as the dawn and the sea. Then she refuses. The scene demonstrates that wisdom often consists not in taking power, but in relinquishing it. Sam witnesses this exchange indirectly, yet its lesson echoes throughout the remainder of the quest. When the Fellowship finally prepares to depart, Galadriel presents gifts to each traveler. Aragorn receives treasures tied to his future kingship. Legolas and Gimli receive gifts reflecting their peoples and journeys. Frodo receives the Phial of Galadriel, containing the light of Arundel's star. Sam receives something seemingly modest, a small box containing earth from Galadriel's orchard, along with a silver nut that will grow into a Malern tree. Many first-time readers overlook the importance of this gift. Gorfiwan. Why soil? Why not armor or enchanted weapons? The answer reaches to the heart of Sam's character. Galadriel does not give gifts according to status. She gives gifts according to nature. Sam is a gardener. He heals rather than conquers. He nurtures rather than dominates. In a world increasingly shaped by war, Galadriel recognizes that restoration matters as much as victory. One day, the soil and seed will help heal wounds far from Lorien. For now, however, Sam can only tuck the gift away and continue forward. On February 16th, 3019, the Fellowship leaves Lothlorien and travels south along the great river Anduin. Their boats drift beneath cliffs and forests, while uncertainty grows ahead. Gandalf is gone. Mordor draws nearer. Tensions begin rising within the company, particularly around Boromir of Gondor. And somewhere in the wilderness behind them, another figure follows their trail. Thin, hungry, and consumed by obsession, Gollum has resumed his pursuit of the ring. Why was Sam able to see both the danger and the tragedy within Gollum, when so many others noticed only one or the other? The answer begins at the breaking of the Fellowship, when the road that had united 9 companions finally divides. After leaving Lothlorien, the Fellowship continues southward along the Anduin. The river carries them past towering cliffs known as the Argonath, the Pillars of the Kings. These immense statues depict Isildur and Anarion, sons of Elendil and founders of Gondor. Even in ruin and decline, the legacy of Numenor remains visible here. Sam gazes upward in wonder as the boats pass between the stone figures. For a hobbit who once measured journeys by walking distance from Hobbiton, the scale of Middle-earth still has the power to astonish him. The company eventually reaches Amon Hen, the Hill of Seeing, on February 26th, 3019. Here, the question that has haunted them since Rivendell finally demands an answer. Should they continue toward Minas Tirith with Boromir, or should Frodo turn east toward Mordor? The Fellowship was never intended to travel together forever. Elrond himself had left certain decisions unresolved. Yet knowing a parting is coming does not make it easier when the moment arrives. Why does Boromir fall when others resist? Tolkien treats the matter with considerable nuance. Boromir is not evil. He is brave, honorable, and deeply devoted to Gondor. For years he has watched his homeland hold back the darkness, while other realms remain distant from the struggle. The ring tempts him not with selfish pleasure, but with the promise of victory. He convinces himself that he could wield it against Sauron. In doing so, he repeats the mistake that the ring has encouraged throughout history, believing that domination can somehow defeat domination. Boromir confronts Frodo near Amon Hen and attempts to seize the ring. Almost immediately, he realizes the horror of what he has done. Frodo escapes by using the ring and climbs the hill alone. There, he sits upon the Seat of Seeing and experiences a vast vision stretching across Middle-earth. He perceives distant lands, armies, mountains, seas. and finally, the searching will of Sauron himself. The experience confirms what he already suspects. The quest can no longer continue as it has. He must leave secretly and proceed toward Mordor with as few companions as possible. For a brief time, Sam appears to be left behind. Frodo slips away and heads toward the boats, yet Sam notices something others miss. He understands Frodo well enough to predict his actions. While Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Merry, and Pippin search elsewhere, Sam runs directly toward the river. The scene reveals how deeply their friendship has developed. Sam does not need explanations. He knows where Frodo will go because he knows Frodo's heart. Why is this moment one of the most important decisions in Sam's entire life? Because Frodo actively tries to leave without him. The ring-bearer wishes to spare his friend from the dangers ahead. Sam refuses. When Frodo pushes off into the river, Sam rushes after the boat and nearly drowns. He cannot swim. The river quickly pulls him beneath the surface. Frodo turns back and rescues him. So begins the final stage of the quest. The Fellowship is broken, but the central partnership remains intact. Meanwhile, events unfold rapidly elsewhere. Orcs from Isengard and Mordor attack. Boromir dies defending Merry and Pippin, achieving redemption through sacrifice. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli choose to pursue the captured hobbits rather than follow Frodo immediately. The Fellowship ceases to exist as a unified company. Yet Tolkien's narrative increasingly narrows its focus toward Frodo and Sam. The fate of Middle-earth now rests upon two small figures walking east into lands of growing darkness. Why does Gollum continue following them despite everything he has suffered? The answer reaches back centuries. Once known as Sméagol, Gollum acquired the ring near the Gladden Fields shortly after the death of Isildur. He murdered his cousin Déagol to obtain it. For nearly 500 years, he possessed the ring beneath the Misty Mountains. By the time Bilbo found it, the ring had reshaped his body and mind. Its loss created an obsession stronger than hunger, fear, or reason. The ring remained the center of his existence. Frodo and Sam soon become aware that they are being followed. Through the desolate hills of Emyn Muil, they catch glimpses of a thin shadow moving among rocks and cliffs. The landscape itself is difficult. Emyn Muil consists of broken ridges, steep descents, and confusing pathways. Progress becomes frustratingly slow. Food supplies diminish. Water is scarce. The physical challenge alone would have tested experienced travelers. For two hobbits carrying the fate of the world, it becomes exhausting. Eventually, Sam and Frodo capture Gollum. The encounter marks a turning point in the narrative. Frodo remembers Gandalf's earlier words about pity and mercy. Bilbo spared Gollum beneath the Misty Mountains. Gandalf argued that this act of mercy might prove important later. Now Frodo extends similar mercy. Instead of killing Gollum, he binds him to service through an oath sworn upon the precious itself. Gollum agrees to guide them toward Mordor. Why does Sam distrust Gollum so intensely from the beginning? Many readers notice that Sam's suspicions are almost always correct. He recognizes the danger. He notices deception. He sees how quickly Gollum's moods shift. Yet there is another layer to Sam's attitude. He loves Frodo deeply and views anything threatening Frodo as an enemy. Gollum is not simply a suspicious guide. He is a living reminder of what the ring can do to a person. Sam instinctively recoils from that reality. The journey through the Dead Marshes soon follows. This region lies north of Mordor and contains one of the most haunting landscapes in Tolkien's world. Beneath dark waters appear pale faces, dead warriors seemingly trapped beneath the surface. Gollum warns the hobbits not to follow the lights. Tolkien never fully explains the phenomenon. Many readers interpret the figures as lingering memories of the great battles fought during the last alliance of elves and men at the end of the Second Age. Whether illusion, spiritual residue, or something stranger, the marshes carry the weight of ancient sorrow. As they travel, Frodo increasingly shows kindness toward Gollum. He speaks gently. He acknowledges the creature's suffering. At times, Gollum even seems capable of change. A fragile relationship begins developing between them. Sam remains unconvinced. To him, Gollum's better moments appear temporary and unreliable. The tension between Frodo's compassion and Sam's caution becomes one of the most fascinating dynamics in the entire story. Neither perspective is entirely wrong. The road eventually brings them to the edge of Ithilien, the beautiful eastern province of Gondor. Here, waterfalls descend from hidden heights. Herbs grow along shaded paths. The air feels cleaner than it has for many weeks. Yet danger remains close. Southward lies Minas Morgul, the fortress of the Witch King. Eastward rises Mordor itself. The Black Land is no longer a distant destination. Its mountains now dominate the horizon, dark against the sky, waiting for the ring-bearer and his faithful companion to draw nearer. Why was Samwise Gamgee able to carry the One Ring and surrender it willingly when so many greater individuals feared even touching it? The answer lies in the darkest days of the quest, when the gardener from Hobbiton was forced to stand alone. Ithilien provides one final glimpse of beauty before Mordor. Once known as the Garden of Gondor, the region still retains traces of its former grace, despite years of war. Here, Frodo and Sam encounter the Rangers of Ithilien, led by Faramir, younger brother of Boromir. This meeting is crucial because Faramir succeeds where Boromir failed. When he learns that Frodo carries Isildur's bane, he refuses to seize it. In one of the most important declarations in the novel, Faramir states that he wouldn't take the ring even if it lay beside the road. Why does Sam immediately warm to Faramir? Unlike many powerful figures, Faramir listens. He treats the hobbits with respect rather than suspicion. He values wisdom over glory. During their conversations, Sam accidentally reveals more about the quest than intended, including references to the ring and to Boromir. Yet Faramir responds with patience. His character offers a glimpse of what Gondor could become under leaders guided by restraint rather than ambition. The stay in Ithilien also deepens the tragedy surrounding Gollum. Frodo increasingly trusts him. For a time, Gollum appears almost transformed by kindness. Tolkien includes a remarkable moment in which Gollum returns to find Frodo sleeping and reaches toward him with something resembling affection. It is one of the closest approaches to redemption that Gollum ever experiences. Yet Sam awakens suddenly and speaks harshly. The fragile moment collapses. Tolkien never states that this single incident determines everything that follows, but many readers have long wondered how events might have unfolded had that moment ended differently. Eventually, the road leads toward Minas Morgul, once called Minas Ithil, the Tower of the Moon. It had been founded by Isildur after the last alliance. Centuries later, it fell to the Nazgûl and became a fortress of terror. Frodo, Sam, and Gollum watch as an army emerges from its gates beneath an eerie green-white light. The Witch King has already departed northward toward Gondor, but the forces of Mordor continue preparing for war. The sight reminds the hobbits that their private struggle exists alongside vast military campaigns unfolding across Middle-earth. Why does Gollum insist upon the pass of Cirith Ungol? Frodo believes it offers a secret route into Mordor. Sam suspects another motive. He is correct. Gollum intends to lead them toward Shelob, an ancient creature dwelling in tunnels above Minas Morgul. Shelob is not merely a giant spider. Tolkien describes her as a descendant of Ungoliant, the monstrous being who aided Morgoth in destroying the 2 trees of Valinor during the Years of the Trees. Shelob embodies a hunger older than most of the world's kingdoms. The climb towards Cirith Ungol proves exhausting. Frodo grows weaker with every passing day. The ring's burden becomes nearly unbearable. Food supplies dwindle. Sleep becomes difficult. Sam increasingly takes responsibility for practical survival. He manages rations. He prepares what little food remains. He watches over Frodo constantly. More and more, the quest depends not upon heroic deeds, but upon endurance. Then comes one of the darkest moments in Tolkien's legendarium. Inside Shelob's tunnels, light disappears almost entirely. The air feels thick and oppressive. Invisible passages twist through the mountain. Gollum finally reveals his treachery, attacking Sam while Shelob hunts Frodo. For all his flaws and suffering, Gollum chooses the ring over friendship. The tragedy is complete. Whatever chance existed for redemption vanishes beneath the weight of obsession. Why is the Phial of Galadriel so important at this moment? Because it represents something far greater than simple illumination. The phial contains the captured light of Arundel's star, itself connected to one of the most important stories of the First Age. In darkness filled with ancient evil, Frodo invokes that light. Shelob recoils before it. The scene reflects a recurring theme in Tolkien's work. Light preserved from older ages continues opposing darkness long after its original source has vanished from the world. Despite the phial's power, Shelob eventually strikes. Her venom incapacitates Frodo, leaving him motionless. Sam arrives too late to prevent the attack. What follows may be the most heartbreaking decision of his life. Believing Frodo dead, Sam experiences overwhelming grief. Yet he also understands the stakes. The ring cannot fall into enemy hands. The quest must continue somehow. With tears and reluctance, he takes the ring from Frodo and resolves to carry on alone. Why does Sam succeed where many others would have failed? The ring immediately begins tempting him. Tolkien gives us a rare glimpse into how the ring adapts its promises to different individuals. It does not offer Sam a throne or an empire. Instead, it presents visions of immense gardens, transformed landscapes, and a world remade according to his desires. The temptation is tailored perfectly to his nature. Yet Sam rejects it. He understands that even beautiful dreams can become tyrannical when imposed through domination. Soon afterward, Sam overhears orcs speaking near Cirith Ungol. Their conversation reveals a shocking truth. Frodo is not dead. Shelob's venom merely paralyzed him. The orcs have taken him into the tower of Cirith Ungol as a prisoner. Instantly, Sam's course becomes clear. There is no hesitation. There is no debate. He turns back toward danger. The quest remains important, but Frodo remains more important. The Tower of Cirith Ungol stands high above the pass, originally built by Gondor during earlier centuries to guard against threats from Mordor. Now, it serves the enemy. Inside, rival orc factions descend into violence over loot and authority. Their infighting creates an opportunity. Sam enters alone. Few moments in the entire legendarium better justify the title Samwise the Brave. He possesses no great army. He commands no magic. He carries only determination, the ring, sting, and the phial. Why is the rescue of Frodo one of the greatest acts of courage in Middle-earth? Because Sam advances despite certainty of danger. He infiltrates enemy territory, knowing capture likely means torture or death. Yet fear no longer governs his decisions. Love does. When he finally finds Frodo alive, stripped of possessions and held captive within the tower, The emotional weight of the moment is immense. Against every expectation, the ring-bearer has been recovered. Then comes another extraordinary act. Frodo asks for the ring. Sam returns it immediately. No struggle occurs. No prolonged resistance appears. The ring has already begun working upon him, yet he relinquishes it willingly. Among all who possessed the ring, this achievement is almost unique. It reveals a strength different from power. Sam does not define himself through possession. He defines himself through service. Together once more, Frodo and Sam leave Cirith Ungol disguised in orc armor and begin the final stage of their journey. Ahead lies the plateau of Gorgoroth, the ash-covered plain before Mount Doom. Behind them lie every refuge, ally, and sanctuary they have ever known. Food is nearly gone. Strength is fading. The armies of the West march toward the Black Gate to distract Sauron, but the two hobbits know nothing of their progress. They possess only each other, the road ahead, and the faint hope that somehow they can still reach the fire before their strength finally fails. Why did Tolkien later describe Sam as the chief hero of The Lord of the Rings, when the story contains kings, wizards, warriors, and ring-bearers? The answer waits upon the slopes of Mount Doom, where every strength except one has finally been exhausted. After escaping the Tower of Cirith Ungol, Frodo and Sam cross the plateau of Gorgoroth. No part of their journey is more difficult. The landscape surrounding them is scarred by industry, war, and the will of Sauron. Ash covers the ground. Fumes drift through the air. Water is scarce. Food has nearly vanished. The great mountain of Orodruin looms ahead, while the dark tower of Barad-dûr watches over the land from afar. Unlike earlier stages of the quest, there are almost no moments of comfort remaining. Tolkien carefully emphasizes physical exhaustion. Frodo grows weaker each day beneath the burden of the ring. Its influence now extends beyond temptation. The ring actively drains his strength. Sam watches his friend deteriorate while knowing that no remedy exists. He cannot heal the burden. He cannot share it. He can only continue walking beside Frodo. Sometimes the greatest form of courage is not victory, but endurance. Why does Sam continue believing in success when evidence increasingly suggests failure? Part of the answer lies in hope, but not hope as modern readers often understand it. Tolkien's worldview distinguishes between optimism and hope. Optimism expects favorable outcomes. Hope persists even when favorable outcomes appear impossible. Sam repeatedly embodies this deeper form. He does not ignore danger. He sees it clearly. Yet he refuses to surrender to despair. During these final days, Sam experiences moments of profound insight. Looking up through the darkness over Mordor, he notices a single star shining above the clouds. Tolkien pauses the narrative to emphasize this image. The beauty of the star reminds Sam that the shadow is only a small and passing thing. Beyond Sauron's reach, beyond armies and wars, something greater still exists. The moment echoes themes running throughout the legendarium from the First Age onward. Morgoth could not extinguish the stars. Sauron cannot extinguish them either. The final approach to Mount Doom becomes agonizing. Frodo eventually reaches a point where he can scarcely move. Every step costs immense effort. His body weakens while the ring grows stronger. Sam attempts to carry supplies alone so that Frodo can conserve energy. He gives away most of his own food. He offers water whenever possible. The relationship that began in the gardens of Bag-End now reaches its ultimate expression. Why is the act of carrying Frodo more significant than many famous battles? Because it represents the culmination of everything Sam has become. When Frodo collapses upon the slopes of Orodruin, Sam realizes that the quest will fail unless he intervenes. He cannot carry the ring for Frodo. That burden remains personal. But he can carry Frodo himself. The words are simple and unforgettable. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Then he lifts Frodo onto his shoulders and climbs toward the fire. On March 25th, 3019, the quest reaches its destination. Frodo and Sam enter the Sammath Nor, the cracks of doom, where Sauron forged the ring during the Second Age. Here, Tolkien presents one of the most important truths in the entire story. Frodo does not voluntarily destroy the ring. After carrying it for so long, after enduring suffering beyond what most beings could endure, he finally claims it for himself. Some readers initially find this surprising, yet Tolkien later explained that Frodo had reached the absolute limits of resistance. No one could reasonably have expected more. Why, then, is the ring destroyed? The answer returns to mercy. Gollum arrives. A struggle follows. He bites the ring from Frodo's finger and briefly rejoices in reclaiming his precious. Then he falls into the fire. The ring is destroyed. Sauron's power collapses. Barad-dûr falls. The Nazgûl perish. The Great War reaches its conclusion. Bilbo's mercy toward Gollum beneath the misty mountains and Frodo's mercy years later both contribute directly to the salvation of Middle-earth. Sam witnesses all of this while standing beside Frodo. The mountain erupts, rivers of fire emerge, escape becomes impossible. The two hobbits do not expect rescue. Instead, they sit together upon a rocky height and speak quietly about home. Sam remembers the Shire. He remembers Bag End. He remembers the sound of water and the smell of growing things. Even at the end of the world, his thoughts return to simple places. That instinct has guided him throughout the quest. Then comes one final miracle. The great eagles arrive. Gwaihir the Windlord and his companions, sent by Gandalf, rescue Frodo and Sam from the destruction of Orodruin. When Sam awakens afterward, he discovers that Gandalf lives. Unknown to the Fellowship, Gandalf had defeated the Balrog upon Zirak-Sigil, died, and returned as Gandalf the White. The reunion is one of the warmest scenes in the book. For Sam, it feels as though impossible joys continue arriving one after another. Why is victory not the end of Sam's story? Because Tolkien consistently argues that healing matters as much as triumph. After celebrations in Minas Tirith and Aragorn's coronation as King Elessar on May 1st, 3019, the hobbits begin their journey home. Along the way, they reunite with Treebeard in Fangorn and encounter Saruman, now diminished and wandering. Yet the greatest surprise awaits them in the Shire itself. The Shire has changed. Under the influence of Sharky, who is revealed to be Saruman, mills, fences, and ugly constructions have spread across the land. Trees have been cut down. Familiar places are damaged or destroyed. The transformation strikes Sam especially hard. Years earlier, Galadriel's mirror showed him similar images. Now those visions stand before him as reality. The war has reached home after all. Why does Tolkien place another conflict after the destruction of the ring? Because the scouring of the Shire demonstrates that evil leaves scars even when defeated. The Battle of Bywater on November 3rd, 3019, becomes the last military engagement fought in the War of the Ring. Merry and Pippin display the confidence gained through their adventures. Frodo acts as peacemaker whenever possible. Sam contributes in his own way, helping restore order to the land he loves. The most important phase of restoration begins afterward. Sam uses the gift Galadriel entrusted to him in Lorien. He spreads the blessed earth throughout the Shire. Growth follows. Trees flourish. Gardens recover. The party tree destroyed by Sharky's followers cannot be restored, but Sam plants the silver Malern seed in its place. The resulting tree becomes the only Malern west of the Misty Mountains and one of the greatest wonders of the Shire. In the year 3020, Sam marries Rosie Cotton. Together, they build a family that eventually includes 13 children, among them Eleanor, Frodo Lad, Mary, Pippin, Goldilocks, and Daisy. Sam inherits Bag End after Frodo departs. Over the years, he serves repeatedly as mayor of the Shire, holding the office for many terms. The gardener who once feared leaving Hobbiton becomes one of the most respected figures in Hobbit history. Yet one question remains. How did Sam achieve what Frodo could not? Frodo saved Middle-earth, but the wounds left by the ring never fully healed. On September 29, 3021, Frodo sails from the Grey Havens alongside Bilbo, Gandalf, Elrond, and Galadriel. Sam accompanies him to the Havens and witnesses the departure. Then he returns home alone. His famous words are simple. "Well, I'm back." The line marks the completion of a journey that began years earlier, outside Bag End. For decades afterward, Sam continues living in the Shire. He raises his family, he serves his community, he preserves the memory of his friends. Then, after Rosie's death in the year 61 of the Fourth Age, the appendices record one final journey. As a ring-bearer, Sam is said to have traveled to the Grey Havens and sailed west across the sea. Tolkien does not describe what followed. The mystery remains. Yet tradition holds that he was granted passage to the Blessed Realm, the last member of the Fellowship to receive that grace. And so the story returns to the image with which it began. A small figure struggles up the slopes of Mount Doom, carrying a burden no gardener was ever meant to bear. Around him lies ash, darkness, and the shadow of the greatest enemy of the age. Yet he keeps climbing. Not because he seeks glory, not because he desires power, simply because someone he loves needs him. In the end, that quiet devotion changes the fate of Middle-earth, and the gardener from Hobbiton becomes Samwise the Brave. If there is a single truth running through the life of Samwise Gamgee, it is that Tolkien never believed the fate of the world depended only upon the mighty. Middle-earth contains beings of astonishing power. The Valar shaped the world. Sauron forged the rings of power. Galadriel carried the wisdom of ages older than the moon. Aragorn inherited the blood of Númenórean kings. Yet when the final test arrived, none of those figures stood inside the cracks of doom. There stood a gardener. Tolkien's world is filled with great deeds, but again and again he reminds you that greatness and power are not the same thing. The ring itself reveals this distinction. Throughout the story, it seeks those who desire control. It tempts Boromir with victory. It tempts Galadriel with dominion. It tempts Sam with a world remade according to his wishes. The corruption is always the same beneath different appearances. The ring whispers that good ends justify mastery over others. Tolkien rejects that idea completely. The heroes who endure are not those who seize power most effectively. They are those willing to relinquish it, even when doing so costs them dearly. There is another lesson woven quietly through Sam's journey, one that begins with Bilbo's pity for Gollum beneath the Misty Mountains and reaches its fulfillment above the fires of Orodruin. Mercy often appears weak when compared to strength. It can seem impractical, even dangerous. Gandalf understood otherwise. Frodo learned it. Sam struggled with it more than either of them. Yet in the end, Middle-earth is saved not by perfect wisdom, perfect courage, or perfect resistance. It is saved partly because mercy was shown to a miserable creature who did not deserve it. Tolkien's world does not deny justice, but it insists that pity has a role in the shaping of history that even the wise cannot fully foresee. Sam also embodies one of Tolkien's deepest themes, the defense of ordinary things. When he looks toward the future, he does not dream of ruling kingdoms. He dreams of gardens, growing trees, shared meals, familiar roads, and the laughter of friends. To some, these concerns might seem small beside wars and crowns. Tolkien suggests the opposite. These are the very things for which the wars are fought. A kingdom matters because people live within it. Victory matters because it protects homes. The beauty of the Shire gives meaning to the sacrifices required to save it. And perhaps that is why Sam succeeds where others falter. He never loses sight of what he loves. Many characters spend their lives staring into darkness. Sam notices darkness too, but he continues looking toward light. He remembers stars above Mordor. He remembers the smell of fresh earth. He remembers the sound of water running through quiet country. Even when standing in the heart of the enemy's land, he carries those memories with him. Hope, in Tolkien's vision, is not blindness to suffering. It is the refusal to let suffering become the only thing that is real. When you step back and look across the whole span of Sam's life, from the gardens of Bag End to the Grey Havens at the end of the Fourth Age, the pattern becomes clear. He begins as a servant and ends as a hero. He begins by listening to stories and becomes part of one. Yet inwardly, he remains remarkably unchanged. The same loyalty that led him to follow Frodo out of the Shire is the loyalty that carries him up Mount Doom. The same love of growing things that delighted him in Hobbiton is the love that heals the Shire after the war. The greatness was always there. The journey merely revealed it. And so the story settles once more upon that mountainside beneath a sky choked with ash. A small hobbit struggles upward through the darkness. The fire of Orodruin burns ahead. The burden is almost unbearable. Yet another step is taken, and then another. The wind moves across the black stone. Far above the smoke, unseen but still shining, the stars endure. And the gardener keeps climbing,